Hello there guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review. And guys, wow, the tell-all absolutely crept up on me. And I guess at this point, some of the stories have come to a conclusion, but many are kind of dangling mid-air. So what I've decided to do, instead of concentrating on particular couples, I'm going to review everybody. And so I'm going to split each part of the tell-all into 2 parts, and this is part 1 of part 1. I'm very sorry that I haven't done any videos for the last, 10 days or 14 days or so. I have been going through a few health problems, but you'll all be glad to know all is well. A few people asked me if I'd decided to stop reviewing 90 Day Fiance, and guys, they'll literally be holding my eyeballs open and blasting out a new series of 90 Day Fiance as they lower me into the gates of hell. If this program's still on, I'll still be reviewing. Don't worry, Ebird's got you covered. Before I start, if you haven't done so yet, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I know I had to have a bit of time off, but needs must. Now I'm back and I'm firing on all cylinders. And I just also want to say very quickly, thank you so much to everybody who sent me out get well wishes and so on. Guys, it genuinely helped to cheer me up, and it made me want to definitely get back to roasting all these guys on a weekly basis for you, like I always do. So without further ado, I give you 90 Day Fiance, Happily Ever After Season 6, Part 1 of the tell-all. And so first up we have this usual scene where everybody's backstage. You know, the one where producers have given everybody lines to feed to each other. That one. And production asks Jovi how things are, and he says things have gotten worse. And of course Jovi's really unhappy because he and Yara don't go out anymore, but Yara said, I'm 27 but all I want to do of an evening is sleep. The Ebird's got an idea. Jovi, wait until Yara's asleep and then you can go off strippering, like you always do. Like you did back in the good old days. And I note with some degree of concern that Yara's big lips are back. And guys, she went the whole of last season, obviously without having lip fillers done. I guess it was because of COVID. And she looked so much better. I just don't understand this fascination with lip fillers. Oversized lip fillers are more than a concern. People who've yet to realise that lip fillers are a crime against nature are quite simply unsavable. Moving on, we speak to Mike, and he tells us he hasn't seen Natalie in months. Then why so glum, Mike? If I hadn't seen Natalie in months, I'd be grinning ear to ear. You really couldn't wipe it off my face. And he said I haven't had any contact with her at all. So I guess things are finally looking up for Mike. Kalani and Asuelu, well, it seems they're still auditioning for Groundhog Day. Every single day with these guys is exactly the same. And Kalani says we still have our problems. Kalani, you always will, because you exist. There are very few changes in their relationship. The one thing I will say is I think this season Asuelu has pulled his game together quite a bit more. We still have lots more to see from him. But if I had to choose between the pair, I'd say that Asuelu is most improved. And then we come to Julia and Brandon. Brandon tells us many things. He says things have been rocky. Julia's always moaning about something and is not allowed to have any female friends. He also tells us that he misses the farm. Let's take these one by one. Things have been rocky. Yep, Julia's in your home. Julia's always moaning about something. You, Brandon, are in Julia's home. He's not allowed to have any female friends. We've always known that. Julia says she's extremely jealous, and you're an idiot for not picking up on it in the first instance. Finally, he misses the farm. Of course you do, Brandon. You've only been gone 3 or 4 months, and you've been living on the farm 27 years. Give it a while, see how things go. I remember when I first moved to university and I missed my hometown. I really was pining for it, and now, even if ISIS bombed directly onto my apartment, I'd still have never ever any intention of going back. You just gotta give it time. And as Julia's sitting there, she starts talking to Yara saying, I don't like my dress. And Yara said, no, it looks absolutely the bomb. It's going to look amazing on camera. And both the ladies, for some reason, turned to Brandon to get his view. He said, well, I don't know. I guess it's okay. And then he said, best to be honest. Brandon, it's better to be honest before you leave the house. You do not wait until she's wearing it and has 3 seconds to be on camera before you tell her, it ain't all that. It's giving me Beyonce 2015 from Lemonade. It's a little bit old. It's too late. And Yara started laughing, and even Jovi saw the joke and started laughing. When Jovi thinks you're a klutz, bloody hell, things are bad, Brandon. Things are very bad. And then Julia talked her usual twaddle. She said, I'm going to be quiet, I'm not going to say anything, I'm going to be as quiet as a church mouse. And in the next breath she said, I'm a person that tells things to people's faces. Why say anything at all, unless you're going to say for the face? I'm going to say for the face. Julia, I liked it better when you said you were going to shut the F up. Next up we come to Ronald and Tiffany. Ronald's still in South Africa, obviously. He's a massive criminal, an all-round ne'er-do-well, and America don't want a bar of him. And he tells us, Tiffany and I are not in a good space. Well, it's nice, Ronald, that you decided to turn the lights on, sit up in a chair and not vape through this whole tell-all. That's a plus. And then we come to Natalie. Guys, I literally don't want to hear anything from this woman. In fact, the only thing I want to know is what happened during Hookergate. That's it. Unless she's going to talk about Hookergate, not interested. And she says, I'm really nervous to face Mike. I don't know what to think. I don't know how he's feeling. I don't know what he's thinking. I do miss him. Oh, for God's sake. Do you think we're that thick? She's still trying to pretend I don't know what's happening between us and in our relationship. She's still trying to pretend that we didn't see her, see you next Tuesday him off the whole of the season and then disappear with that bloody weirdo extra from Game of Thrones. And tell us all, I have to leave him for my sanity. Have you forgotten that you said that? Why are you trying to pretend I just don't know what he wants? You've never cared what he wants before. Why would you start now? But one thing I will say for Natalie is that she's got a little bit of a tan and she does look very beautiful. And next up we have Tiffany. And Tiffany's moaning on saying all the finances are on me and I have to do it all without Ronald's help. And whilst this is to some extent true, you are getting in excess of $1,500 an episode for this season. And I've heard from a very good source that people that are asked to come back for another season actually can negotiate more money and get paid quite a bit more than the $1,500 flat fee. And considering Ronald is an integral part of you making that money, he's not worth nothing now, is he? And guys, I wondered to myself, I wonder what Tiffany's going to wear. Her wardrobe's so varied. It could be anything. Maybe a polo neck, maybe a halter neck. Oh, she's shocked me once again with a cut-out shoulder. Guys, Tiffany's so one time. Same old moaning, same old clothes. Next up, Libby and Andrei. And they're still with their fake drama. And I'm not really going to talk about this couple unless Charlie turns up and there's a fist fight between Charlie and Andrei. Then I may become invested. But really not until. So that's pretty much everyone. Oh, who's missing? In the last month, I've lost another 20 pounds. And now Kim Basinger can F herself. Angela's in town. So guys, all in all, it would seem that she's lost 400 pounds. 220 pounds in weight and another 180 pound of Nigerian, i.e. Michael. Things aren't looking too good between these two. Oh my God, guys. Angela had to wait until all eyes were on her and everybody was seated in the actual studio, and she walked in as if she were a top catwalk model. She was wearing a shocking red catsuit, and she had what was clearly a synthetic ponytail perched atop her head. Honestly, she was giving me used tampon vibe. Sorry, that was disgusting. But she honestly strutted up and down and posed for what seemed like, well, forever. Far too long. Probably 20 seconds, but even that's too long. Everybody was saying, oh my God, Angela. And she was like, lock up your husbands. Why, Angela? In case I should become physically ill from the sight of you. Guys, honestly, I just couldn't get over this. I'd be absolutely pissing myself at the tell-all if I saw Angela's fashion catwalking. Honestly, I don't think I'll be able to contain myself. The producers would have to permanently exclude me. I'd be finished. So what has Angela got to say? Not much of interest, just more of what we've heard before. Michael didn't support me. And the only interesting thing she said was she had to have breast implants because her boobs were far too flat. Really? What? This is down to that bloody doctor. Guys, what did I tell you? Everybody was in my comments saying, oh, Ebird, he's only doing it so that she's proportionate once she's lost weight. I said it then, and I say it now. Angela likes having big boobs, and Michael likes his wife with big boobs. They both like big boobs. Flat boobs, we're never going to cut it, even if it was what other people think is proportionate. He agreed to take £1 out of each, and he took 1.5 out of one and £2 out of the other. In my opinion, breach of contract. Maybe that was his plan all along. Let's just put an implant in to keep them looking perky, and I gotta say, they do look quite good. But both Sean and Angela point out, Michael didn't mind that operation, it was just the other operations he was against. As far as I'm concerned, that doctor has got an awful lot to answer for. And so we sit down to begin. Sean tells us nothing is off limits. Sean, unfortunately, we know. We were privy to Angela and Michael's awful sex scenes during the series. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say, I fast forwarded through them all. That's why I was unable to review them, because I refused to watch. And so after Sean had said hi to everyone, they first talked to Elizabeth and Andrei. And Elizabeth tells us Andrei still needs to work on his anger issues. And the Ebird says they all, as a family, need to work on their storylines, their acting and their believability, and there's plenty of work to be done. And the only good thing about this family all working together is that all the horrible people are usually in one place. And so next Sean goes to Mike and Natalie. And she asked Mike what's up, and he said there's no relationship at all at the present time. What do you mean, Mike, at the present time? You sound as if you're open to some sort of reconciliation. Have some pride, gather yourself together and keep it moving. And it transpires that Natalie has moved to Florida. Well, I gotta say, the suntan suits her. And then Julia, who said, I'm gonna stay as quiet as a church mouse, said, Natalie, why didn't you go back to your country? Julia, I thought you were going to stay out of the mix. Incidentally, if you and Brandon break up tomorrow, do you think you're going back to Russia? Because I don't. I agree with the general sentiment. Yes, Natalie used Mike for a green card, but I'm not quite sure what it's got to do with Julia. And Mike says he doesn't know where she's living in Florida or who she's living with. And instead of addressing these two things, Natalie just moans on and says Mike worked too many hours. He was 2 hours travelling to work and 2 hours coming back. And because he's the boss, he had to do everything. Natalie, what do you care? You live in Florida. Shut the F up. But I have got to say, Natalie's wearing an absolutely beautiful dress and her shoes are fire. They're absolutely stunning. But just like she and Mike, the two don't go together. Sack the stylist. And when everyone was going on at Natalie and moaning and saying, you just used him to get here, she said, when I came here, it was a disaster. I agree with her on that. And she said, I deserve to be happy. Not too sure. And then she said, even if I go to the moon, yeah, brilliant, let's get Natalie to the moon. It hasn't been done since 1969, but I'm prepared to give it a go. I've got GCSE physics and a clapped out Audi. Let's just propel her into the air as far as we can, with the ultimate aim of getting her to the moon, but if we fall shy of that, then so be it. How will we ever do it if we don't but try? Let's see what we can do. And Sean asked both Mike and Natalie, are you seeing anybody else? And Mike said no, and Natalie stared like a weirdo for ages and then said, no, I don't. So in other words, yeah, you are. Otherwise, where's she living, guys? She's not just living somewhere for free now, is she? And then lo and behold, Jovi pipes up and says, what about the guy you came to New Orleans with? And apparently he and Yara and Natalie and the mystery man all went out for dinner in New Orleans. And Yara tells us when she asked Natalie, are you dating or is this your boyfriend? She was like, hee, ha ha ha, and she wouldn't give an answer. Now I don't know what you guys think, but I think if you're not dating someone and they're just a friend, usually the imputation that you're sexually involved with that person moves you to actually saying, no, there's nothing like that, we're just good friends. The fact that she said ha ha hee was more than likely because the guy was there and she couldn't deny it whilst he was there. She didn't want to absolutely confirm it. I believe that Natalie's seeing this guy. And as Jovi was spilling all her secrets, Natalie looked very peed off and also very worried. And Natalie said, how do you know that this guy wasn't gay? So what if he's gay or not? It didn't stop you with Juliana, now did it? Natalie, where did you meet this guy? I met him from a Russian community. It's all Russians who are in America. I was waiting for her to say he actually is gay, but instead she tried another tack. And that was, so, just because we're sitting together, does that mean that we're sleeping together? In this case, Natalie, yes it does. You live in Florida. You've taken him to a couple's meal with another pair of newlyweds. You don't just happen to be sitting next to him, you have brought him there. When you left from the meal, where did you go? Where did you stay? Did you get an immediate flight back to Florida? No, you didn't. You stayed in a hotel, more than likely with this guy. You didn't just happen to be sitting next to each other. It's not a train or a plane. You organised it. You wanted it. And then Julia poked her nose in, and it was actually useful for all of us. She said, how do you pay for your apartment and your clothes and your food? And she stayed quiet for ages, and everyone was saying, it must be another guy. Who are you seeing? Where are you getting money from? You're not legal to work. And then Mike pipes up and says, she still has his bank card, and he pays for everything. What? And she's still moaning about how many hours he works. She really is something else. And Mike said, I'm cutting off support. And it made me realise, guys, then why she was so worried when Jovi brought up this other guy. It's because she knew if Mike heard that, everyone would say, what an idiot you are. And he would cut her off. And that's exactly what's transpired. And Mike said, yep, that's it. I'm cutting off support and I'm going to put in for a divorce. And Natalie said, well, if you think you can find better than me, then I'll pray for you. I want you to be happy. Guys, she's just so toxic. She really is. If you think you can get better than me. Guys, I'm literally lost for swear words. I really am. Natalie's literally the kind of girl to kill you and then ask, why are you dead? Her arrogance is simply limitless. And guys, there's been one situation that's never left my mind. When Mike said, in the penultimate episode, that Natalie went round to his apartment, had sex with him, and then 10 minutes later drove off out and went to Juliana's, I was completely bamboozled. I couldn't quite work out her endgame. Because of course, you know, with Natalie, there is one. Is sex with Mike so great she had to have a piece before she went off to Juliana's? Doubtful. I really couldn't come up with any plausible reason why Natalie took this course of action. And now finally, ladies and gentlemen, all becomes clear. Just like the notorious B.I.G. told me when I was a little girl, first comes the ass, then comes the cash. Or was it the other way round? Whichever, you know what I'm saying. Natalie was doing whatever she needed to do to keep that money flowing. Natalie's a money-grabbing, ungrateful scoundrel, and Mike should cut her off forthwith. Mike, what you've got to do is defund Natalie. Yep, now that I've said it out loud, it's what I want more than anything. And so Sean calls for a break, and in that break Natalie cries, and it's unconvincing as far as I'm concerned. And she says, if he files for divorce, then so be it. I will not fight him. I will say, okay, I can't fight anymore. You never wanted to fight. You wanted to get over here, get your green card or at least get it underway, and then do one, which is exactly what you've done. And all of the cast seem against Natalie, as is probably the rest of the US, and more than likely all of Ukraine. And when we return after the break, it's Tiffany and Ronald. And Sean asks Tiffany, what happened? Weren't you watching, Sean? And guys, don't think that's a joke. I genuinely do not believe she watches this show. If she does, it's while she's busy doing something else. Maybe making food for a dinner party of around 14 people. Or maybe whilst doing skin and nail maintenance. Who knows? But she's certainly not focused on this show, that's for sure. And Tiffany responded, we had a big argument, and when I started packing my bags, Ronald realised that he doesn't treat me right, and he apologised. And Ronald agreed with this. But as always, Ronald has some accusations of his own, and he tells us Tiffany's always the boss, and she has to realise a woman is a woman, and a man is a man, and Tiffany always wants to take the role of the man. That's because in your family, Ronald, there's currently a job vacancy for a man. She's merely acting as a temp until she finds the right viable candidate. Apparently, Ronald, your references haven't quite checked out. And yes, your mum was your referee. And obviously Tiffany responds, I have to pay all the bills, look after the kids, and I have no money at all from Ronald. Tiffany, you know good and well that you have to apply for his visa so he can get to America, and then if he still has no job, and if he still makes no money, we'll quite rightfully call him a waste man. But until that time, it's quite difficult because I guess the rand doesn't go that well into the dollar. And Tiffany, you knew good and well when you met him that he was a scamming, thieving, drug-addicted swindler with an alcohol problem, no work history, and sticky, bloody fingers. What did you expect? But then Yara pipes up and Yara says, Tiffany, you need to let him be a man. I can feel your strength. I can feel your independent energy, even from here. Yara, they live in two different countries. How much of a man can he be? What Ronald thinks being a man is being able to boss everybody about and make all of the decisions. That's what Ronald thinks being a man is. And I don't know how anybody works out that Tiffany has got boss energy. She's about 29 and she's only just moved out of home. Ain't no boss like a self-proclaimed boss. She'll be saying it on Instagram next. But then, as so often is the case, Ronald makes yet another of his toxic statements. It's Tiffany's fault that I'm not in the US right now. No, it's not, Ronald. It's your fault. Remember, you're a criminal. And it's at times like this when I realise if I was wandering around somewhere and I was unlucky enough to bump into Ronald, I'd preemptively pepper spray him. I really would. But it looks like for once Sean isn't going to let me down, and they show the argument they have right after the couples counselling. And so you guys might remember, they went for counselling with Ronald's uncle. And I think if I remember rightly, he's supposed to be some sort of church minister. So it's very likely that he's devoid of a psychology degree or any professional knowledge which should underpin a professional psychological diagnosis. But I digress. In fact, I say I digress. Nope, I'm going straight back round. Also, I'm fairly sure you're not supposed to counsel somebody that you already know or someone that's a family member. Maybe someone can weigh in on the comments about that, but I'm pretty certain that's the case. But very unluckily for Ronald, he thought his uncle was going to weigh in on his side, and he pretty much weighed in on Tiffany's side and said Ronald needs to stand up and be a man. And Ronald was understandably shocked, disappointed and angry. That's pretty much what he always is, so I guess. And Ronald said, I have to accept my faults, but she can't accept hers. And then we get a bit of film, which I'd never seen before, and it's Ronald saying, I'm going to keep the kids here. If she thinks she's taking them back, she's got another think coming. Oh lovely, we can now add abduction of a child and infringement of civil liberties to his long litany of criminal activities. But back in the studio, Ronald admits to Sean, I admit I treat her wrong and I've apologised. Okay, Ronald, you can't treat somebody like dog crap for significant periods of time and then have it be okay with an apology. It doesn't work that way. You apologise with actions. Go and get yourself a full-time job and give her half of your salary for the next 6 months. That might calm her down a little bit. But just as Tiffany was starting to look smug, Ronald's got an accusation for her ass. And he tells Sean, when we argued, Tiffany went and got a whole bottle of Bacardi and she went to stay at the hotel with the cameraman. Tiffany half rolled her eyes, but she stayed completely quiet and then she said, I don't know how to respond to that. He's crazy. Yeah, it's not quite the emphatic denial that I was looking for, Tiffany. Let's just say that. And he maintained that she was far too close to the cameraman, and she maintained that she didn't flirt and that Ronald was just unnecessarily jealous. Well, Tiffany, you know good and well that if you ever say, I'm going to stay at a hotel with a guy, even if it's friends or even if it's because you've had an argument, he's going to get jealous. So you kind of knew what you were doing. And so then Ronald and Tiffany's mum came on screen, and Ronald's mum, Rhea, said that she thinks they're a great match and she doesn't want them to divorce. She said, Tiffany, I love you and you're a part of me and you're a part of my family. And the Ebird, because she's so bloody benevolent, has decided to translate this for you. Ronald has always been an absolute nightmare. Nobody can live with him and nobody can put up with him. And now I've found you, Tiffany, that can kind of halfway put up with him. And I'm clinging on to the tatters of this relationship for dear freaking life, because if you go, you'll never ever be replaced. But I did feel sorry for Rhea. I feel her pain. Who else is going to take on bloody Ronald? But whilst Ronald's mum was talking, Tiffany cried. And then it was Tiffany's mum's turn to speak. What's she going to say? For we know she loves Ronald. Oh, it seems that she blames Ronald for most of what happens. Oh, Maggie, you should also blame your daughter. Because when she sees the truth right in front of her, she always closes her eyes, whether it's being pregnant or whether it's marrying a hardened criminal. Well, probably not a hardened criminal because I think he only stole from his mum's house, but you know what I mean, a criminal. And Maggie continues that Ronald's hard-headed and he expects too much without giving enough. And to be quite honest, I think that's a pretty good definition of Ronald. And then Sean asked, is there still love in this relationship? And they both said yes. But unfortunately, guys, what they didn't say is that love with each other? I don't know if I think it is. And that's where we end things for the first half of this tell-all. And so in the next part of the tell-all, we get, I think, to the bottom of Hookergate because Natalie faces off with Trish. And also we hear more from Jovi and Yara. And Angela and Michael. And from what I can see, Charlie turns up. You never know, we may get that fist fight after all. So guys, thank you so much for listening. And as usual, please weigh in with your thoughts in the comments down below. In particular, what did you think to the information that Mike had been paying for Natalie to live for the last few months? I've got a feeling that this is the case. I think she's living with somebody else for free. I don't think she'd have moved out of the free home in Seattle until she'd swung monkey-like from tree to tree with another free gig. So I think that Mike's paying, but I think just for like clothes and food and just a few bits and bobs. I don't think he's paying a full rent and all of her living expenses. Something tells me that Mike couldn't really afford it. I remember when I was poking my nose into his affairs and his personal and private business earlier this season, and when I looked at his job description, I'm pretty certain the salary started at around 40k for his management role. Now obviously he might be on more than that, but I doubt it would be significantly more. So he's not on the best of salaries, not if he wants to keep two people in separate homes. Also, what do we think of Ronald and Tiffany? I was a little bit pissed off with Yara when she was saying, Tiffany, you've got masculine energy and you try and be the man. She's basically having to play both roles at the moment because there's a lack of Ronald. But on the other hand, boy, don't we know about it. Tiffany never stops moaning and gassing on about all that Ronald should do but doesn't do, and all that Ronald should be but isn't. Can any of you imagine the effect that all of Tiffany's gassing has on climate change? If she was ever to shut the F up, it's just possible we could save the planet. Greta Thunberg's fucking fired, Tiffany's shut her trap. Guys, we can only dream. So yeah, let me know what you think in comments down below, and I'll get on with reviewing the last half of part 1. Thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you again for all your support. Please don't forget to subscribe and like and all of that good stuff. It's fun over here, come on. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you good day.